Hi, welcome to the second episode of I'd Tap That. You heard me, I'd Tap That. We went over the details of that title last episode. If you missed it, well, YouTube. Anyway, today I'm here with the great Tom Sullivan. That's how I'm promoting you. You have no idea. I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm talking to somebody in person, Facebook. I mean, one of my friends, I told you about that. One of my friends referred to you as a demigod.
Wow.
So, I mean, you're right up there with Thor and Loki and all that.
Oh,
you know.
Great. I wish I had a hammer.
Well, you've got the book.
I got the book, yeah,
You got
sure.
the book. So, Tom, how did your involvement with Evil Dead come to be? How did that happen?
It's the old thing of when the opportunity came, I was prepared. Back in my married days, my wife was going to U of M, oh boy, to Michigan State. Big difference.
Yeah.
And she was taking journalism courses up there, and I was working at a Hobie's restaurant. I knew I wanted to be an artist, and I couldn't see really the point of getting a degree in art when I should be drawing and painting 8 days, because I thought it's what's in your portfolio, not the paper.
What's on the wall, yeah.
That was my thinking. And so I worked at a sandwich shop and worked all day on that stuff, and read about the MSU Creative Filmmaking Society. Sam Raimi and his brother Ivan had found out that students who live on campus could rent auditoriums for real cheap to help promote student-led activities. And so they'd rent an auditorium, and Sam would set up a Super 8 projector and show short films, comedies that he'd made in junior high and high school. And on a Friday night in campus, there's not all that much to do. And you can probably dig up $1, the entrance fee, just finding Coke cans and turning them in, you know.
Right.
And so they did that, and I just met him, and we kind of hit it off. And I had my reel of Super 8 stop motion animation and special effects tests I'd done. And after they do their Super 8 film showings, we'd go over to their place, and I'd watch more of their movies and show them my stuff. And I was like the missing link. They didn't have an effects guy. And I didn't have people to make movies with. In Marshall, I was the only person I knew who wanted to do movies. And so I was limited to like solitary film projects like stop motion animations, the ultimate solitary film endeavor. And anyway, they were Sam at the time was putting the finishing touches on a Super 8 feature-length comedy called It's Murder, and I did some sound effects for that with my mouth. Somebody's dropping poison in a bottle, in a cup, and I'm going whoop, 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 making little splash noises.
Right.
And I did a poster for it, a little kind of chasing the hero kind of poster, and from there, we just kind of settled in with each other, and Sam was trying to figure out how to make a career in film. And at that time, we had movie drive-ins everywhere, which needed like a triple feature every week, and like a new one. So there's a big demand for films for kids with disposable income, and horror films were like a surefire bet. Even the really awful, crappy ones, and there's plenty of them out there, would still get played. And so we thought, well, we have a chance. So Sam put together a short film called Within the Woods, a Super 8 half-hour horror film. His second one. The first one was called Clockwork. It was like 10 minutes long about a woman being stalked, and she kills her attacker in her room. And but Sam's primary, when he was growing up, it was kind of like he was like one of the Three Stooges. It was really, that was where his head was really at. Loved the Three Stooges.
Right.
And got me to reappreciate them a great deal. And so horror was like new to them.
Nice. Well, to me, in Evil Dead 2, Ash was very Three Stooges-like.
Yes,
to me. I mean, those two movies are...
And the third one is even more... It really isn't a scare in Army of Darkness.
No. Army of Darkness is great, especially with, Evil Ash and,
Sure.
It's just, for me, it's amazing because those movies... I remember my son... He was probably 3 years old, and we were watching Evil Dead 2.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, and he's sitting there at the part where the corpse is dancing, right?
Sure.
And he's huddled under a blanket, kind of shaking, and my ex-wife goes, "You're scaring him." I said, "Okay." And I asked him, I said, "Do you want me to change it?" He goes, "No." He goes, "This is cool." And I was like, "It's very cool, you know?" So, I mean, even though it gave him that little terror.
There's no permanent effects on him?
No, not, well, other than
back
being
in the
my
80s,
kid.
back in the 80s, there was an 8-year-old boy who saw Evil Dead, and it took 15 years of intensive therapy in a soundproof room just to get him to stop screaming.
Wow.
I made that up now.
It's still cool, though.
It's still
I'm
fun.
using it. I'm using it in the show.
Sure,
It's
sure.
great. But
yeah, Evil Dead, I remember a conversation in the kitchen of the house we were living at when we were making it. What do you think this film's going to do? And I remember the consensus was if it played in a drive-in in Texas for one weekend, we were on the map. You know, we could say we made a theatrical film, and we were all going to be happy with that. And now, 30-some years later, and it's bigger than ever.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we've got Evil Dead the musical, a play. It's been on Broadway, and now it's in community theater land, so it should play in a theater near you. And
We need to get that here.
And we have Evil Dead, the new sequel, the Fede Alvarez film, which did much better than they expected.
I haven't watched that, mainly because I was a fan of the original. I mean, I've got it. I've never watched it.
You know, it's a completely different tone than the other films.
Okay.
The first Evil Dead has kind of a dark comedy and horror to it, and Evil Dead 2 is about 50-50 comedy and horror, and Army of Darkness is like just laughs. There really isn't a scare in the film.
Right.
But this new one is it's a sledgehammer in your forehead. It's for hardcore horror fans.
Nice.
And so it's got a really dark, grim tone to it, and not even a inadvertent chuckle in the whole thing.
Nice.
So when I saw it, I thought it was a great bait and switch because I was expecting some of that comedy.
Right.
And no, it just gets dark and gruesome, and the gore is pretty intense. It worked on me.
Nice. See, that's one of the things that actually kind of initially pulled me away from it is I was expecting, because I was one of those guys that I was on the pulse of it, waiting to hear, any announcement that I could.
Sure.
And when they said that there was going to be no Ash in it, I was like, I was like, Bruce has a
and
big
I can't spoil
part,
it for you, but yeah, there is a little tiny bit.
Oh, there is?
But just sit through the end of the credits.
Okay. All right. So
It's
so now
groovy.
you've got me, now you've got me watching it now.
And of course, one of the stories after it broke was Sam and Rob and Bruce were talking about how it's reinvigorated the entire franchise, and there's going to be a sequel to the Fede Alvarez film, and Sam is going to do Army of Darkness 2, and then the third film would link both franchises together.
Oh, see,
and get
that would
Jane
be
Levy
great.
and perhaps Bruce back in together, and that would be epic. I'd love to see that, and I know fans are just drooling for things like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Evil Dead 1 and 2 fans are, in Army of Darkness, just a whole trilogy, the fans are out there in droves.
It's astounding. It's amazing.
I mean, they definitely have a spot. I mean, to me, it's like I said, it's just one of those solidifying things where if I find out that somebody hasn't watched it, I'm like, we're watching this.
That's the thing. Back in the 80s, when VHS came out, it was the most stolen VHS tape ever because it was just so hard to find.
Oh, yeah.
Back in those days, the first release of it, I think, was like an SLP, a 6-hour speed version, and how awful. And it's like a little bit of tape on the reel, and it's one of those films that you see it, and you're compelled to show it to somebody else, and so it had this viral kind of effect on people where you had to see it, you had to show it to other people, and you can rewatch it again because it's so fast paced and so much fun that you're seeing new stuff in it, and also it's just great to blow your friends' minds away with it.
Right. Now, here's a question: were you there at the debut when they debuted the film?
Oh
Were
yeah,
you there?
sure.
Where did it debut at?
At the Redford Theater in Detroit. In fact, in Invaluable, the documentary made by Ron Mead about me, we go visit the Redford Theater again.
All right, and we're actually going to show a clip of that. Probably, I think what we'll do is we'll cut right now, and we'll go to that, and then
this is a trailer for Invaluable, a documentary about me and my career with Evil Dead and other things.
So let's take a look at that, and then when we get back, we're going to talk more Evil Dead.
In 1982, Fangoria published issue number 23 of its Fantastic Horror Movie magazine. In it, Bob Martin wrote, Sullivan's artistic talent was immediately put to use designing the ads for the film group showings, but it was his hands-on experience in makeup effects and stop motion that made him invaluable when the project began.
It also lets you know what you can take, too. And then what's strange about those situations is, I swear, some of that rubbed off into the movie. Because there has to be a reason why those movies are still popular 30-some-odd years later.
Hi, we're here with Tom Sullivan, the famous filmmaker, special effects. Let's start that again. Hi, we're here with Tom Sullivan, the old... Okay, let's start that again. What's your name again?
Hi, I'm Tom Sullivan, the famous special effects creator for the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, and did some stuff on Army of Darkness.
I mean, look, we should shut down. This is, if you want to have a really interesting documentary, is you have to go into Tom's life.
Tom was like the island, and we were the current that flowed around him. He was the rock.
We are the needles of rock.
Okay, so we're going to go over all the stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sister Cheryl. Because it's red
I mean, I did know that I took off my top, which I didn't want to do, but they made me do it.
This one goes out to the ones who think we think what they don't think what just fucking tell.
Loose ankles. This is gross.
1, 2, 3, 4, round.
All the luminaries are here tonight. Unbelievable!
Which means party down. Yeah.
Tom Sullivan is an absolute genius. Michelangelo's got nothing on the man.
His visuals still are extremely memorable and part of that whole franchise.
Really impressed with Tom's work because he really kind of created something super cool.
Probably helped a lot that I was completely in awe of you and your work.
Things worked out well for all of us.
I just was blown away by his artwork. His enthusiasm was wonderful.
You seem like a really artistic version of a makeup artist. So it seemed logical to use you for Evil Dead, but it was a new field for us too. So you were leading the way as much as anything.
Well, tell us where it all started for Tom. Well, tell us.
All right. So, wasn't that awesome? I mean, I don't know if that's an I Tapped That exclusive yet. Has anybody else seen this yet?
No. We had a premiere at the Alamo Draft House in Kalamazoo, but this is the first time the trailer's aired, other than like YouTube or something.
Oh, come on. All right.
As you can see, we got a lot of help from my Evil Dead pals, Bruce and the ladies, and Hal Delrich, and all sorts of unsung heroes of Evil Dead. We're going to try to make them shine for take a bow.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce has always been one of my heroes. So.
Absolutely. He's such a riot. In real life, he's a gas.
Nice. Now, about the book, how did you come up with the concept for the book?
In the script, it's described in Sam Raimi's original script called Book of the Dead, which was the original title. It's described as having some kind of animal skin, which I took as leather, with a few letters from an ancient alphabet on it. And to me, that didn't sound scary. Sam, this is a book of evil, right? And yeah. Well, then it should look like you wouldn't even want to pick it up. And one of the most disgusting things I'd ever heard of was the actions of a woman named Ilse Koch. She was the wife of a Nazi commandant of a concentration camp, and she was a sadistic little sicko.
Right.
And would have the prisoners skinned and make lampshades and curtains and book covers out of their skin. And being the most disgusting thing I'd ever heard of, I thought, well, let's use that. And so I needed a recognizable feature of a human, and so I eliminated everything else and put on a human face. And it's the only human face book cover I've found so far. I mean, other than since then, everybody in their
Copies
brother
it,
makes
yeah.
it and puts it on eBay, which I wish you wouldn't.
You hear that?
Yeah,
You
please
have
don't.
no souls. We Deadites will come for you.
Yeah. Well, the thing is if some company starts making these and I could ever come up with the money for a lawyer, they'd say, well, what about all these other people you didn't stop? And the judge could actually make my property, my creation, public domain. And I don't want that. I could also make money on it, but I want to have a limit to that. And
Right.
so it's kind of a curse that I'm glad people, and if you make them for yourselves, I have no problem with that. In fact, I'll swap you with prints and signed prints for it and put it into my fan art collection.
Oh.
But and I have about 4 boxes of these things.
Nice.
But so I'm happy that it's inspired lots of artists and creative filmmakers, and my work on Evil Dead has turned a lot of people onto special effects and things. And I never expected that. I saw King Kong when I was a kid, the original old black and white one, and that's what inspired me. I'm like 5 years old, and I knew what I wanted to do. And
Right.
not many kids know that. I always heard that was my golden ticket. I always knew what I wanted to do, and I always worked towards it. So I just drew and sculpted ever since.
Nice. Now, another focus of ITAP that is tabletop games, role plays, stuff like that. And I'm under the understanding that you've done some work on a set called Call of Cthulhu.
Right, for Chaosium.
So what was your involvement with Call of Cthulhu, and how did that happen?
Penny and my wife and I moved out to San Francisco, and I started going to conventions and such, and actually rented a table at some big comic convention in San Francisco, and had my artwork up there just to show off and stuff. I wasn't selling anything. And Lynn Willis, who was working for Chaosium, came by and saw my stuff, gave me his card, and said they were looking for artists. And I had worked on a film, one of the coolest movies never made. It's based on the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, but it was an original story that took his mythos and kind of assembled a new story from it. And that was called The Cry of Cthulhu. And I had done artwork for that, and we'd gotten some publicity in Starlog and Cinefantastique magazine that showed my artwork and talked about the project. Unfortunately, it never got made, but I got published and had that artwork. So I had some Lovecraft stuff and an introduction to it. And then when Lynn came around and asked, was talking to me about the Call of Cthulhu game that they had, I was already kind of had my foot in the door with the artwork and everything. And well, let me show you the first piece I did.
Okay.
It's in here somewhere. There we go. Here's the first cover. Let's see this one.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That works.
And that was my very first one, and there's interior illustrations as well. And funny thing about this, I was watching South Park. They had a 3-part Cthulhu adventure. And in the 3rd episode, Eric is now best buddies with Cthulhu and is riding around on his shoulder.
That sounds about right.
And he convinces Cthulhu to have Stan and Kyle and the other guys from South Park sent into the nether realms, and which he does. And when they arrive, it's this place. It's their drawing of this. And oh, cool. And then a couple of shots later, there's a page. They show a page of the Necronomicon, and it's a different drawing of this setup. And I've been trying to find contact information to him, so send him some prints of that with my thanks, because I thought that was incredibly neat to have an homage, and I made it into South Park.
It's actually really, yeah, I mean, that is kind of where it's at,
And but I've done any number of book covers for them.
And you did this cover as well?
Yep. Now here's lots of them are always a male and female investigator, one with a pistol and the other with a flashlight, and they're always being menaced by tentacles. That was pretty much the standard thing for me.
Well, when you think Call of Cthulhu, you think tentacles,
Exactly, sure. Here's a nice one. This is the great old ones. It's a great giant creature. I actually painted this in the original state of it in 1980. It was an inspiration by the Republican National Convention where Ronald Reagan was nominated for president. And it's a
the story for that.
It's a allegory of totalitarianism. I'm cynical about government and such.
That's all right. That's all right.
Sandy Peterson, who has the interesting name of Peterson, because there's also a famous bird illustrator named Roger Torrey Peterson.
Mhm.
And he would do Peterson's Field Guide to Birds of the American Southwest. He covered pretty much the whole world. And so we kind of used the Peterson's Field Guide to Cthulhu Monsters.
I like that.
It's
I
a
like
slightly
that,
different spelling in the name, but and this one has 27 of the most commonly encountered creatures. And
that one's one of yours?
That's yep. I did the interior, most of the interior illustrations.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on. All sorts of things.
What's a favorite monster that you've created for this?
Well, Lovecraft created them. I just illustrated them.
Okay, well, what's the one that you?
Oh, I'll show you.
Your favorite illustration that you've done?
Of this particular batch, there's a. Where'd he go? There's it's called the Wendigo, and it's a gigantic, tall creature, and it's so big you can't actually see all of it at once. Here we go. It's this guy right here.
Nice.
And he frequents snow areas, and it's kind of a fun painting.
Nice.
But some of the descriptions in Lovecraft are so detailed. It's like a medical examiner's report. You know, it's measured out and the textures and colors and everything. And then there's some like this one, which is, and should I try to describe the blasphemy before my eyes, I will go insane. Draw one of those, Tom. You know.
And I think you did. I think you did really well on it.
Yeah,
it's kind of like this spear, kind of planetoid fungus thing.
And it could be anything or turn into anything. But what I like is with that particular book, everybody's got a different favorite, which means I did something right.
Right. And I mean the diversity of the characters and the art for them is what helps make it.
Here's another one. This is Fragments of Fear, and I jokingly call this, it's a investigator hiding from some zombie-looking fellows. And it's kind of like he's hiding from the dance troupe from Thriller. But
kind of, right, yeah. Because, I mean, you got the one guy, you know.
And here's a fun one. There's a cartoonist. He's primarily known for his Playboy cartoons.
Okay.
Gahan Wilson. And he actually wrote a review of this particular cover and loved it. Thought it was really funny and
nice.
Great. It's an escapee from an insane asylum, and one of the guards is actually can transform from human into something more useful for help grabbing escaped prisoners.
Nice.
And here this fellow's meeting his fate.
Very cool.
And there's some boxes. Here's one of Nyarlathotep up here in the background, and the viewer is being menaced by a leopard.
Yeah.
As a African village burns in the background.
That's definitely awesome.
Yeah.
What's really cool is a lot of the Cthulhu creatures actually are, well, I'm not going to say they're similar because in Magic the Gathering they've got creatures called the Eldrazi, and if you look up any of the Eldrazi, they look Cthulhu-esque, you know, and it's actually really cool, and they're from like another dimension kind of.
Okay.
They're all in Magic the Gathering, you know, they've got the colors, you know, the blue, green, red, black, white. All these creatures are colorless creatures because they come from this place where it's just basically it's like a neutral kind of colored place, but it's just really, really cool. So showing these are kind of like, okay, now we know where the Eldrazi came from. You know, it's like they're cousins or something.
Oh, I see.
But I see you've got more stuff to show me?
Sure, yeah. This is a Japanese version of a game I did, and this is actually a building in Marshall, Michigan. It used to be the public library. It's now the American Museum of Magic kind of resource center.
Okay.
Where they keep the storage of things.
Oh, and there's your flashlight.
And there's the
check
flashlights
and
and lots of tentacles coming out from all the other buildings in the area.
Yeah.
And there's this one, Terror from the Stars. Which
That looks
is,
amazing.
These are Bayakis, I think. I mean, some strange, super intelligent insectoid from another dimension. Go figure.
Awesome.
Yes, yes, yes.
Awesome.
That's what I do all day long. Nothing but awesome.
That's very, very. That's wow. I mean, that's amazing. So, did you ever think that you were going to leave this much of a mark on?
No. I thought I'd be lucky if I could even make a dime on this stuff. And the impact I've had on fans, and it's great to go to horror conventions and things like that. If you go, I'm trying to get into the Novi Motor City Comic Con for this May, and so if you can make it there, I'll be love to see you. I have copies of Invaluable too, as well as prints and things of my artwork. And
Novi, be there.
Novi, yeah, it's a huge, big, great convention.
Now, if somebody wants to get a hold of one of your prints, how do they do that?
Well, I have a website called darkageproductions.com, all one word. And that's where you can contact me through and all that. I'm also on Facebook. Don't know my number, but it's on there. If you type in Tom Sullivan. And my Facebook picture is a drawing I did of a little leprechaun underneath a big mushroom, and he's puffing on a pipe. So it's a cute little drawing.
All right. Awesome. All right, Tom. I think that you've fed the dead. So
okay. Marvelous.
I'm definitely going to, definitely I'd like you to be on the show again in the future.
Sure.
See if we can get you playing some Magic or something at some point.
Yeah. Be my first time.
It could be fun.
Could be.
All right. So this is I'd Tap That saying, we tap that.